back to the Jesse Rucinski show. Happy Friday. Hopefully, you guys have had a good, last couple of days since I was last with you guys. And I will say, just a brief one more. I was right. I told you so. To all of my doubters out there, apparently both big Walmarts here in town. Thankfully, not the little one yet. That's right here by the house. Very convenient, by the way, that neighborhood market right there. But the two big ones are doing, serious renovating inside to put in almost pretty much all self-checkout. So there's another, I told you so, about 2 years ago, because I saw it before. Now they're doing it again, which is going to cost people jobs, which, isn't good in today's day and age. But I don't know what's happening around y'all. And I wouldn't even have known if I didn't go and see, Hannah's family yesterday, because I'm going to the big Walmarts. Too many idiots. I stay away from them. And the neighborhood market has everything I need, and it's much more convenient. But I want to throw that one out there. And again, that me saying nice things about the Walmart neighborhood market, because that thing is a godsend. Even people that come to see me from out of town, we go there and like, wow, that was amazing. Like, I know, right? In and out, 10 minutes, everything's right there, not full of a bunch of BS. Very good stuff. But not of the topic at hand. A very important thing. It comes down to, again, partially, gun violence, some things that they're doing about it. Matthew McConaugheys' speech, which was still good. I mean, if you didn't, I shared it to the at least Facebook page. Walter wanted me to share it out, so I did. I listened to the whole thing. He said a lot of, good things in there that I agree with. There's some things that, I don't necessarily completely agree with, but, no one ever really fully agrees on anything. We just have to learn how to agree on most things and figure out ways to get around things that we don't agree on, find a middle ground in them, which is an art form that is lost around, in the country. Called out both sides. That was a beautiful touch right there from the podium. And again, look how many of them, I mean, everyone might say I don't, that I just don't like Democrats. So I don't like the rhinos. There's, guess what? The Romneys, McConnells, Lindsey Graham, Liz Cheney, like there's a lot of them, a bunch of people whose faces I can see, but I can't remember their names. Like there's a lot of them on both, Democrat and the Republican side that, have been trying to work together with anyone to get anything done that's meaningful for any of us in a very long time across the board. And everyone with a functioning brain should be able to agree to that. Can we ever get everyone to agree on it? No, either there's people on both sides that just think the other side is completely nuts and we're all just conspiracy crazy people. I know there's good people on both sides of the aisle, but I know that there's a very large portion that have only been worried about themselves for the longest of times, which is why we are where we are in general. So I did like him calling that out because that's a big one. It's been a big one for, a lot of things. This goes back, decades and decades that, they've been doing a lot of stuff like that. Even most recently, like where people refused to sign off on COVID relief payments till they had money go to people for gender studies overseas and stuff during COVID, which made no sense. They wouldn't sign off on it. It's just like there was just so much pettiness, really, and wanting to be in power and just worrying about themselves that we get thrown to the wayside. So I do appreciate him calling out both sides on that. Again, there are things I didn't agree with in there as well, but there are very few things, and they were literally things that I just didn't completely agree on, where I still thought they were good ideas. There was just, some, and I'm going to tell you why I have certain, feelings about things when we get to that, because I do have them wrote down. So we will, get to that. And they're very minute things. And, it's not like they're very like actual small things that I'm like, yeah, but only if this happens. Because there has to be, safeguards in things. And I think we should all be able to agree that there should be safeguards on things. You know, I do think there's some things that the government is still trying to do that won't make a difference and things they're not addressing, but I will also get to that. And I find it amazing that, they pass so fast that making it, you can't buy a semi-auto rifle until you're 21. My feelings on it's just amazing how fast they get through stuff like that. I was having how quickly they could do that, but it takes them months and months and forever to, do a lot of other things, which has always irritated me to no end, which it should irritate everyone. Because how can you not? And yes, for everyone watching this, but don't worry, this one's still moving down under the desk there too as I smack it off my knee. Talking with my hands, you guys just only ever get to see one. They're there. And again, with the 21 thing, there are some things that, whatever, it doesn't affect me, but there are some things I think need to be wrote into it, to make it, I guess really the word I'm looking for is fair, and everyone can go, life isn't fair, but the certain things that I bring up actually make sense if you think about it. So, I have feelings on that, but again, there's certain things that, should happen with it at the same time to make it, make any sense at all. And it's what all of it needs to work. It needs to make sure that everything is good, it's actual functional, and that it's fair to everybody. And certain, like, it's just, and when you could say I'm crazy when you hear that, go, well, they'll, thinking what's going to come out of my mouth. But what I say is really the one thing that I've thought of this whole entire time that makes, sense in my head. But again, I'll get to that first about, the speech. I thought he gave a good speech. Again, if you haven't watched it, share it to the Facebook page. Our dear friend Walter, like, here, watch it, share it. It needs to be shared because he doesn't have any social medias anymore. Because, apparently the whole world's watching him or something. I don't know. God knows. But I keep telling him, stop looking up old Clinton, properties and where all the nuclear plants are in the country. I'll stop doing that. It probably looks kind of sketchy according to the government, but made me get it out there, and I listened to it, and I thought I did a good job, mentioning some of, the victims and, their stories, because those stories deserve to be told. And I get why he didn't mention, all of them. Well, everyone matters, yes, but there could be some families that are like, that wanted to talk, but didn't want, to be out there on the world stage, talking about it, which, it completely makes sense. Anyone that says it doesn't make sense, there's something wrong with them. And I thought it was very, very, he did a good job. He got, there's passion behind it. And you can tell he really actually cared. And again, he was, raised there, Uvalde, Texas. Like, there's, his hometown. So it's a good, he's perfect for it because he knows the area. He knows how people are raised there. All of that. It's a peaceful, no matter what. I mean, no matter how long it's been since I've been back where I was raised. I mean, I still tell it that's home. I might have been in North Carolina for what, since June 1st of 07, a long time ago. And I still call Whitehaven home. And all the people that I saw stations from, Fox to everyone across the board saying, why do we need to listen to a celebrity try and tell us what's wrong with society and how to fix it? Like, because he's from there and all that, like, he knows their values and all that. So you could take that and shove it. But, because he talked about, learning to shoot and have respect for firearms and what they're capable of and proper safety and all of that. In a lot of places, just given up on that altogether. If you look at some areas of the country, so I get, I think there needs to be more of that, which goes, coincides with what he was saying. I really do think, we can all agree that people, more people need to have, proper training and respect for weapons. And there's other good, calling out, the media for, I guess, celebritizing, which isn't a real word, but making, I can't think of the word I'm trying to get to right now, but out of the shooter, just wall-to-wall coverage about them, which is what, most of them are after anyway. Like, don't make them, like, do it the Daily Wire, don't mention them at all. I don't think it helps the situation by, making them, they get more coverage than the victims do. And I don't think that is right at all. I don't think, again, anyone with a brain can, disagree with that, it's not good, shouldn't be done. The victims are the ones that matter here, not the person that shot them all. And, again, we all like to know why. So if we could figure out why, then, mention that. But if wall to wall was this guy, here's his face, like, plastered all over the TV, like, that doesn't help the situation. I agree with that. And he mentioned background checks and red flag laws, amongst other things, and harsher penalties for those that abuse them. And I'm okay with, that stuff too. I mean, say the one, to an extent, but again, like I said, I'll get to it. But there's a lot of good stuff in that speech. So if you haven't seen it, again, I keep saying it, I know, but watch it. It's on Jesse Rucinski Show's Facebook page. You just got to scroll through all the episodes and everything else that's on there. That's really, good. If you find me on Messenger, I'm pretty sure I could actually just send it to you that way. But really good stuff in there on background checks. Again, all federally licensed, firearms dealers have to do background checks when they do stuff, and there are states where it's not required by, non, federally licensed people and, certain entities and private sales and stuff. And, if you want to do a background check on all of them, I mean, you have to do it if you buy it legally. I mean, through a licensed dealer. So what difference does it make if they have to do a background check on you as well, just to make sure? I mean, I'll agree with them. What difference would that really make in the long run? None. And, you have to do it legally, through a licensed dealer. Again, that kind of legally, like, do them all. But who's going to complain about that? I don't think anyone with a brain would complain about that. I think that is, a splendid idea. It's because I don't use the word splendid enough. That one, I don't think anyone would, complain about. Because again, you have to do it if you go to a dealer to try by, an AR or most anything. Why not that way too? You see everyone going background checks up? Yes, they do. So, no matter what, that should be done. Don't think anyone will freak out. Sure, some people will. Everyone has, most people find a reason to freak out about almost anything. Hell, you should listen to my mother when I talk about self-checkout lines. She loses it for 20 straight minutes. There's just some things that people are going to freak out about. But that one shouldn't be one of them. Red flag laws. If they could do it, federally and all that, in a way that couldn't be abused, because I could see in that about, people that could abuse it, because, a judge could decide, if like a coworker, family member, friends, someone went, to petition them being able to have their firearms to be taken away because of it. I mean, there's some things that, all of us can sit there and think about ways that can be used and abused, especially even when the judge could just be all anti-Second Amendment and they could, take what people are saying and do it, because we see judges that are skewed all the time across everything. No one can say they're 100% not, or certain family members or, ex-wives or anything that could just have a grudge against you or an axe to grind, or you could have just had an argument or screaming match with. You could go and do it, and then they can get them taken away just because they have a grudge with you when you really aren't a danger to anything, which then causes real problems and people to actually probably have to worry about things like that. I think that, that's where they can, get in trouble with stuff like that. People are doxing people, whatever it is, calling the cops on people, saying there's all kinds of stuff, and then they come and break the door down and all kinds, like, people are doing that over video games and stuff. I mean, this is pretty much like that. Could just be, as long as it's not abused that way. And even if people try to abuse it that way, those people should then be locked up longer. Just like people that get their weapons taken away and then turn around and do terrible, stupid, crazy things to them. I think those people should, have to have the same exact repercussions anyway. Like, so I don't think it should, they should find a way so that no one can abuse it no matter what. And again, who's really actually going to argue that point? Again, there are some, problems that could come from it, but as long as it's done right, whatever. I'm not, even remotely going to freak out about stuff. I know people are. We've all seen people freaking out so far on it. But again, that's because a lot of idiocy can come from it, and people could abuse the system, either way. And that's the thing, they have to figure out how to do it without that, being possible. And then when they figure it out, they need to figure out, how to punish people accordingly that take advantage of it and abuse it and all of that. So, because we all know they can, any system can be abused, any of them. So you just got to find, a good way and proper punishments for it, and actually enforce those if people do, because that's the only way you're going to deter people from doing it, is if you really, throw the book at people who take advantage of, abuse the system in any single way. So that's good. Making it so you can't buy a semi-automatic rifle until 21. One, I already said, it's amazing how fast they can get through something when they want to. It's amazing. They're done. It's amazing how quick that happens. It'll do some stuff, keep them out of there so they can't purchase them. But then look how many times when things like this happen where they steal them from, friends, family members, or they get them illegally. Like, it does happen in a lot of the time. So it'll make it so they can't own them until then. But think if they could turn around, steal one or go get something else. And if you look at mass shooting stats, like, they speak for themselves, but waiting, having, waiting periods and all that stuff, like, whatever, I don't have anything to worry about in my background checks or any of that's what make me wait a little, whatever, stuff like that, whatever. It'll irritate some people, but does it really make a big difference if you can still get it anyway and there's no problems? Yes. So, that really isn't a thing to me. I just have, this one thing about them passing it, and that is people that were like, whoa, this hairy bearded guy on camera right now with this irritating voice that you're listening to. At least I think it is. Now we're in the military, like right after they turned 18, and were trained to, with these weapons and trusted with these weapons, and then sent overseas with these weapons and field ops and every rifle range every year and all of that, properly trained to use them. Same as police officers and all that get in there right away that are under the age of 21. There should be something in there that, if they could be trusted with it at work and overseas and all kinds of things to protect other people with, they shouldn't have their ability to buy them, taken away until they're 21. Then if they could sit there and literally like work in an armory where all they do is deal with weapons all day in the military, even bigger ones than that, but they can't own one. Like, I think those guys need to write something and so those guys can still own them, because if you trust them to have them at work and be working with them and all around them, then they should be able to be trusted to own them. I think, again, you can argue me on it, but I think that one does make sense. You're good enough to work with it and be hands-on with it and have it at work and all and use it at work and all, but you can't own one. Like, I find that to be kind of idiotic, moronic, stupid. Will they do anything about it? God knows, but I think I completely make sense of that. And I think we should all be able to agree with that. They can be trusted with it, then they should be able to be trusted to own one, because technically that serial number signed to them, what that is theirs. They got to maintain it, like all kinds of stuff. So it's their responsibility. So they should be trusted with one then. Excuse me. But a lot of the words and stuff, they don't put it into action. And more stuff into action and then they mentioned it's not going to stop anything from happening. And that's what gets me. And again, you've heard enough about my arguing with people. People telling me it's not a mental health or crime issue say I don't care about mental health, and I'm wrong. Like, you guys are actually crazy and don't give a damn about anything, and you've never looked at the actual numbers, which we all know I love to look at numbers, and that's an actual problem when you're trying to make all these big points that affects all kinds of people's lives when you don't know any of the statistics at all because you never bothered to look. You just take what everyone tells you, and that blind ignorance gets us nowhere. And again, remember when everyone said, man, if only, because all we have is libraries and encyclopedias, if only we could have all this information at our fingertips. Now you do, and no one wants to look at it. And that's what really hurts my head a lot. And again, the numbers of gun homicides and shootings are so far from what we always hear everyone talking about. And it's all mass shootings are tragic, all shootings, most part are tragic. I mean, most of them are done by criminals or people, self-defense from criminals for the most part. And they're all, tragic. But then, like, if you look at the numbers, I've gone over them before, the numbers just, they don't add up to them attacking rifle. And more people get beaten to death with hands, fists, and elbows and knees and stuff, like literally bludgeoned to death with hands or blunt objects even, than, rifles. And they're very far apart. There's a very large handgun and crime problem, and no one seems to do that anything. You look at the suicide numbers, they're way up. That's a large part of the gun deaths. And, no one's really doing anything to even take care of that. And telling people like vets, don't tell me or any other vet that we don't care about mental health after how many people most of us personally lost to suicide. And think, if mental health care was so good in the country, there wasn't anything, we all have doctors. There's some people that see the VA psych team every week. Excuse me. And are on meds and all of that. And we're still losing 22 a day on average. That's a problem. And if you look at the total numbers of suicides, it's a very large problem in the country. So you could say we should do yearly mental exams to make sure they can keep their license. What the hell is that going to do? Look at all the people that literally have seen their doctors, been perfectly fine to their psychiatrists in the VA, no signs of anything, have dinner with their families like nothing, and then take their own life that night because, and everyone thought they're perfectly fine, going all the way through to include mental exams. Like you're sitting there talking to the person, talking about, bearing your soul, and they think that everything's okay. Like, we got to do better with that and crime. And, I just don't think anyone actually, that says we don't care actually gives a damn or knows how to put any care towards it. We need to have better mental health care across the board and stop pushing so much idiocy and just stop all the hatred and all of it. And the numbers from 2020, from Pew and the CDC, the very apparently important and all-knowing CDC, even though they get everything wrong, but at least the numbers can't lie. But from 2020, there were, a lot of really terrifying, stats that came out. And, when it comes to mass shootings and all of that, like, the numbers really don't add up to anything that they've always been pushing. And I hate that a lot of them, on both sides, push, it's the NRA's fault. The NRA hasn't killed anyone. Like, if you look at the numbers, it's not their fault. That's what who they immediately go after all the time, and it hurts my head so much. And they can say whatever they want. All kinds of people get money from all kinds of lobbyists across the board that, people should be acting on, but they get money from the lobbyists, and then nothing happens. And that crossed all politicians, which is why I was happy when he called out both sides for needing to actually get over themselves and work together. But 2020 stats from, again, Pew Research and the CDC, 45,222 firearm-related deaths in the U.S. in 2020. That averages out to about 124 a day. 24,292 of them were suicides, leaving only 19,384 Homicides were about 50 a day. Suicides outdid, related to deaths outdid homicides by just under 5,000, barely under 5,000. Funny how no one talks about that. 611 were law enforcement related gun deaths. 513 died in mass shooting incidents. And rifles in the alleged assault weapon category, they only accounted for 3% of firearm murders, because most of them are done, by handguns and all that, which is just 3% of firearm murders were committed by the rifles that they keep going after, saying are the worst thing ever. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of people dying by the thousands with handguns and shootings that no one talks about. Hell, fentanyl killed more people than guns by a long shot. It was 3 out of every 4 overdose deaths, just over 71,000, and then I say it was higher than that, but look at the jump from 2020 to 2021, and what, 20 plus thousand overdose deaths, jump to over 100,000 for the first time ever. Guess what? That also, a lot of that is mental health problems. People, dealing with that instead of actually doing that to forget about the problems of actually dealing with the problem, which is what gets us into trouble. And again, while they're doing a lot of things that really make sense, like if you look at the rest of the numbers, like no one talks about any of the shootings in Chicago. Again, people have been yelling, saying this, that. Like, what? Did anyone talk about the mass shootings in Chicago over Memorial Day? 42 people injured, 9 killed, 51 total people. It's over Memorial Day. No one talks about those. Whenever they happen, you never hear about them on the mainstream media. Those go by the wayside, and the only thing they talk about is, mass shootings that, fit a certain thing. And guess what? Excuse me. No matter what, no one can say that it's not because it doesn't fit agendas, because and you can say I'm a dick too, but the stats are the stats. And look at these other places: Chicago, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Houston. And most of the mass shootings happen, predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods in a lot of these cities. And you never hear about any of them. There's mass shootings pretty much every day in Chicago. No word on the news about any of them. They only pick the ones that matter, and if to their agenda. And if they threw them all out there, and granted there'd be a lot of coverage, but we know that it's very pretty much crime, problem. If you took a lot of the crime out of it, the drive-bys and all the gangs and all that stuff, like most of there'd be hundreds of mass shootings that would go away here. We just got rid of them and actually locked them up. It'd be a very large part in the problem if you look at the actual numbers, which pretty much no one does, at least on the socials that just run their suckhole because they think they know everything. I actually have numbers to back it up. We took out those. I mean, again, Chicago was over double second place. Like, there's so much that happens there in those places all the time. You just never hear about it. If we get rid of the crime problem, we'd get rid of hundreds of mass shootings. There'd be isolated incidents here and there from crazy people, but take care of the crime problem. You take care of most of it. And then we can worry about, we should still be worrying about it, but we should be, getting rid of them. And get rid of the crime. A lot of it will go away. Punish them as, long as they should be. Don't give any of this mercy. Did they show any mercy when they shot up all those people? No. Keep them in there as long as they're supposed to be. Get rid of the crime problem and the mental aspect of it. Mental health. We do have a mental health issue in the country. There's pushing so much idiocy. That's getting us there. But get rid of the crime, and so many of them would go away. And also, people like Patton Oswalt, thank you for proving that you're just as big of a dick as everyone thought. As I've always thought you were politically. They talk about Judge Kavanaugh and the guy there, and just saying, just give him one entry point, windows and guns, and have him protect himself from the guy. Making reference to, schools. What's wrong with us, with people saying, like, which makes complete and utter sense, to properly secure the schools? Like, what's so hard about that? Why is that such a bad idea? You could actually accomplish getting rid of the crime problem, dealing with the mental health problem, and securing the schools to stop the problem. At least school shootings, have lots of ways to do it, and throwing that in there like that, like it's a joke. What you can actually deal with the problem, do something to fix it. You miserable excuse of a human being. It's because you're not around anymore. No one finds you funny, so now you just got to throw dumb stuff like this to be relevant. And it's amazing how much of this comes from people that has private security teams with them, in a bunch of aspects of their life that are armed with guns to protect them. I mean, not all of them are, but they have some in case something stupid happens. So many people that say we don't need guns and do all that, or you have like politicians, like members of the squad that have private security paid for you guys on your tax dollars, that have armed private security. What if they need it, protect themselves from crazy people? Why don't we? Like, there has to be like a get over yourself. Let's actually deal with it, not just push partisan idiocy. This is across the board. There's people that are on the right that are agreeing with them, or right there with them, that have private security as well. They are armed. Trust me, I tell you, the Capitol Police, they are armed to the teeth. So if they can be armed security, why can't we, arm ourselves? We just need to actually deal with the real problem. And again, I agree with a lot of what he said. I've already said that. But rifles are only 3% of the problem. A lot of it just predominantly black and brown on black and brown crime in predominantly those areas, meaning all kinds of mass shootings that no one hears about with pistols. Like, it's a crime problem. Get rid of the crime problem, most of the mass shootings will go away and we won't look as bad, but they'll never cover all of them evenly. And we all know they'll never cover all of them evenly. Because again, how many people even knew about all those shootings in Chicago over Memorial Day? You never hear about it. We need to get rid of, again, border stuff. Because drugs are killing way more people than drugs ever could. Well, at least are damn near double. Like, secure up like as many areas that we can to stop the stuff from coming in, and then deal with the ones that are actually doing it and making all like meth and other things here. Because like, if you saw the numbers for fentanyl, how many like fentanyl accommodated, again, 3 out of every 4, like 3/4 of overdose deaths again were fentanyl. And that's a lot of people just trying to, not even knowing that they're getting it, stuff's laced in it. But drugs, that's a mental escape from things. If you're dealing with mentally, look at a lot of addicts and all that will tell you that. And it's true. You need to get rid of, deal with actual mental health stuff, and because that's what all the drug things are from. That's where a lot of these, mass shootings are coming from, or they're just coming from crime and garbage areas that you need to lock up the criminals and not be so compassionate. Need, big cash bond, lock them up. Sorry, doesn't sound nice, but lock them up. That's all you gotta do. People are doing stuff like that, lock them up. They can't be shooting anyone anymore then. Get more police officers, take care of the crime problem, mass shootings will go down. And we need better mental health. Again, just look at the VA. We average 8,000 suicides a year. We all have mental health doctors, pretty much, that we see. I see mine every couple of months. Walter sees his like every week or two. Maybe let's see them more and go to therapy as well, and all kinds of stuff. And therapists and all this, like, and we're still losing people. Like, to mental health thing, we need to like get that back under control as well, because again, 2020, more suicides than homicides with guns. That's a terrifying number. Really, I mean, it should terrify you. Terrifies me. I'm sure you could even hear it in the tone of my voice today. Like, that's just freaky to me. But again, I'm not passionate on anything that they're doing. Again, who's going to complain about background checks, red flag laws? I mean, as long as they do it, they could do it in a way that doesn't completely screw with people. And anyone that abuses any laws, punish them for it. People stop doing it then if you actually punish people to the fullest. People stop doing things when they notice that. So just make sure, again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening wherever you are. Thank you on Good Pods. Let's keep it going on Good Pods. I'd love to get up there and just blow some of these people out of the water and keep growing. And also Amazon Music, Castbox, Stitcher, Anchor, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Good Pods, like I mentioned. Thank you so much for all the support you give me there. The videos are on YouTube, Rumble, and Cloud Hub. So if you go and find me on those, if you have them, just subscribe. It doesn't take long. And if you're done listening, if you're a listener, go on YouTube and Rumble. Yeah, subscribe. That helps. Click like on the video, write a little comment if you already listened to it. It only takes what, a minute or so to do all of that. It helps me out immensely. And please, share everything out and let me know what you thought about it. Because again, I think we can all agree on a lot of those things, but we also have to look at the actual stats and what they say and deal with that problem too, because that problem is taking out way more people than anyone ever gets to even hear about or mentions. And I think that's a problem, and I don't like that. I don't think I'm alone on that one, but be good to each other. Have a good weekend. I'll be back on Monday. I appreciate you all very, very much. And, again, share it out, help me out. Let me know what you think, because those are the big ones, and start a conversation about it. There's things that need to be fixed. We can all agree on that. It's just actually doing it properly and not just rushing through things and making it all stupid, which no one seems to ever do. And that's a problem. But be good to each other. Have a good weekend. And until Monday, my friends, peace.